Awesome.
All right. Give everyone a few minutes just to get logged in. Hey, Molly.
Hi.
Hi.
Ignore the sound of my gloves going on.
Technical difficulties. It's all in the biz.
Yeah, you want to be sure to have good, nice, tight gloves when you do a color melt. So
exactly. Cover it all the way up to the elbow.
Yeah, I know. I should.
I always find color everywhere after a color melt. Especially when you use those pure tones.
So bright. All right, good.
All right. Hi, Angie. Hi, Fabia. Lola. Carly. Hi, Carly. Just a few more minutes. We'll get everybody kind of a second to get logged on. How's everyone today? All right, I think, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, hi, welcome. I am Hardee Warner, National Artistic Educator with Colors by Gina. And today we are going over one of my favorite techniques, which is color melting. Right now, everyone's feeling very drab after, being on lockdown, and no better way to add some pops and some dimension into the hair than to get some color melting on. So without further ado, from Texas to Colorado, I'm going to pass it on to the fabulous Molly Hardee. Welcome.
Hi, guys. I'm Molly Hardee, and I'm an international artist with Colors by Gina. So today, as Hattie said, we're just going to be kind of diving right into color melting, which I'm sure is something that a lot of you do behind the chair, but maybe you don't realize that that's what you're doing. So we all do kind of balayage, and typically when I think balayage, it's with lightning dust or some kind of lightener. So with this, you're kind of reversing the process and just making things a lot easier on yourself. So what I've done with our lovely mannequin here, whose name is Sam, apparently, according to the front of her neck there, I went ahead and balayage highlighted her with just 20 volume lightning dust because I was sort of trying to simulate what it would look like for our clients who haven't had their hair done for quite some time. So, I kind of tried to leave it a bit brassy and leave it a bit grown out in a lot of places. So that's kind of going to be the base that we're working with. And then you can adjust your formula to whatever kind of base that you're starting with. So if someone has really light, bright, level 10, level 11 blonde highlights, you're definitely going to get more pickup from the brighter tones that we're using in this. So with that, I have already mixed up 2 bowls of color, and I'm actually using 3 different colors. So real quick, I want to explain why I'm using 3 different colors, give you kind of a visual. So the colors that we're going, or the level that we're going from, is a level 3, which is very dark, down here, level 3, to a level 8. And so because that's such a big change right there, I wanted to get a medium color to kind of blend. So I'm going to be making something that lives right around a 6 right here, just for the mid shaft, so that it's not such a harsh line and it really makes that color melt. So that's what makes that possible. Just to give you guys kind of a visual, and this is right out of the Colors by Gina lovely swatch book. So, oops, sorry, knocked you guys. So basically the partings, actually, I'm sorry, I wanted to do the formulas first. So I have 3 bowls. 2 of them I already have mixed up, and they're these beautiful colors. They're already oxidizing right there, and you can see.
Already in the bowl.
Yeah, the violet is coming through, right? It's so pretty. So then the last one I have here, I'm actually going to mix with you guys live, but I want to read the formulas off. So we've got this all mixed and ready to go, but I want to show you. So I'm going to read these off, but we are also going to have them posted, I believe, in the comments and also in the upper section so that you guys can have these and you can play with them. And the greatest thing about Colors by Gina is that you can basically customize everything. So if you feel as a stylist that you want to, lighten this a little bit or put a little more punch of violet, then you can do that, but this is a great base. So on the roots, we're going to be using 16 grams of 3.22, which is a level 3 violet, and 4 grams of the 0.11, which is the pure tone blue. And I'm going to be doing that because everyone gets pretty warm at the roots. And so even though the violet kind of cools that a little bit, I wanted to keep it very cool. So by adding those pure mixers, you can kind of cut the unwanted tones that appear with virgin or natural hair. So, and then with that, I'm doing 10 volume color producer because we're just depositing. So if you need to cover a little gray, you can do that with 20, but I prefer 10. And then our mid-length section is going to be 8 grams of 5.22, which is a level 5 violet. 8 grams of 7.1, which is a level 7 ash. So we're keeping that cool, right? And then 2 grams of the 0.11, which is, again, the blue pure mixer. And 2 grams of the 0.22, which is the pure violet mixer. Those kind of give it the pop that we're starting to look for right in this mid section right here. So and then the reason I'm mixing 20 volume, even though technically we are depositing, is I want to add a little shifting to happen where the colors blend. So she's got her natural hair kind of in here, and then it melts into the balayage, but you kind of want to blend those together. So 20 volume is going to both lift and deposit and give you that great base. So, and then for the ends, this color I kind of tweaked a little bit from one of our earlier classes, the Purplicious with John Altman. And his formula was just kind of a beautiful lilac color, so I just kind of tweaked it just a little bit. So that's going to be 12 grams of 0.02, which is our no lift toner. So that's going to help dilute this color, make it lighter and not go too dark on the ends. And 12 grams of the 0.01. So again, we're keeping it cool by putting that blue no lift toner. And then 4 grams of the 5.22, which is just going to give it a little bit more of a punch with the pigment because it's such a pigmented color. We want to have a little depth to it, but just a little, 4 grams. And then 1 gram of the 0.11 and 1 gram of the 0.22. And that, because we're just depositing, is again 10 volume. So you don't have any lifting that needs to happen, so you can just start with that. So I've got that last color that I was just talking about all mixed up, and see how it just is very different. You've got the pure mixers that really show up right here. And I have to say, the most important thing about utilizing a color, you should always do this, but especially when you're using pure mixers, is mix this before you even put any of your color producer in it. So we're going to mix that up real quick. And if you don't do that, you're just going to spend like 30 minutes trying to get the clumps to meld together. So you guys can see just with a few quick turns, it's already mixed. So that was really nice and fast. And then you can just go ahead and put your color producer in there. So I'll do that for just a second.
And we were talking about like how if you want a more subtle look, you know, you can keep it with the more, put the pure tones in to punch it up if you want more pops like what we have. But like if you're in the office and you don't want such big pops, you bring those pure tones down just a little bit. They really add a lot of things. They're so beautiful.
Yeah, and since we're just using on that last formulation 1 gram of each, you can play within that realm and just do like a dot of it if you're kind of nervous about using it, or if you're just like a really bold stylist and you want to go nuts, you can put like 4 grams. So feel free to play, right?
Oh yeah.
So back to our section.
Your hair.
Yeah, exactly. So like these, like those bright pops, those are all pure tones. So you can even put those straight on, but they tend to fade a little bit more like a fashion color. So especially on top of a balayage. So I'm going to adjust us just a little bit so that Sam is more in frame. Okay, I think that's good. Does that look good, Hattie?
Perfect. You can really
Good, good. So basically what we're going to do here is we're only doing a half head, but if you were doing a full head, you're going to T-part this and just clip her front out of the way. What's this guy here? You know, she'll just have it in her face for a minute. And then basically you're just going to work in 1-inch sections depending on the density of the hair. So you just want to make sure that you're able to really saturate each section. And this technique is really simple. So what you definitely want to have is gloves on for sure. And then have a towel nearby, because when you're going from a 3 to a level 8, you're definitely going to want to wipe your hands off with that 3. Just get a little bit of it off so that you're not pulling some of the color from your gloves onto those ends right there. So just a little pro tip from how many times I've done that.
I keep it nearby for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And just for wiping up around the hairline. We don't have a lot of staining with this color line, but you know, you definitely don't want to make a total mess of her, you know, so it just looks a little more professional. So basically each section you're going to go from the bottom and just do about 1 inch. Again, because we're going so dramatically dark to so dramatically light. So within that section, you're going to have put the color on with 1 inch, and then you're basically going to take your fingers like scissors like this and just sort of pinch down and just start moving that color. And that also basically makes sure that you're saturating every single hair within that section. So that brought it down to about 2 inches right in there. It's not as much of a big deal if you don't wipe between each section, but for sure between the 5 and the ends.
Also helps keep the section nice and blended.
Exactly. So, and again, you're going to start from the bottom, just kind of push up. That way you have color to kind of work with from the underneath section. And then here with the mid-length, I'll show you guys a little bit more of this as we go up higher, but you can kind of see she doesn't have as much balayage down here, which is pretty typical for how we do it. And she has some right on the ends, but you're going to want to come down with any of that mid section to any of the parts that are still brown. So you try and leave some of the blonde, you know, the higher up pieces. So you're kind of sort of reverse balayage, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
What volume do you use for the pure mixer?
I'm sorry, what did you say, Hattie? One more time?
What volume do you use for the pure mixer?
So if you were going to use the pure mixer on its own, it just kind of depends on how permanent you're trying to make that. So typically, you could go with a 5 volume producer, and that's just going to make it kind of more like a fashion color that you're able to lift that back out. But if you're going for more of a permanent look, I would go with a 10. So again, sorry, go ahead.
I've even used 20 on the Pure Tone mixer as well.
Yeah, it's kind of just that rule of thumb. Like that's where you get to play. Like you can't play like that. You can't put 30 volume on the roots, you know.
No.
But with the pure tones, that it literally is just pigment. There's no lift. There's no, you know, it's just depositing colors. So again, we're just kind of going through and just pinching. Once you put the level 8 on, don't go back up here and start pinching because you're going to be pulling that all the way down too far. So.
Look at how well it saturates the hair.
Yeah, and it kind of sets it in this beautiful little ribbon, so you're not making a huge mess out of everything. Like it's really nice and easy to just go through like this. Her head's a little wobbly, so I'm just really hoping we don't get a decapitation situation going on here.
I'm not even flying across the room.
I know, that would be horrible. You know what though? We just roll with it. We have to roll with everything nowadays, right?
This is true.
Yeah. So again, just kind of making sure that you saturate underneath and on top. And just these brushes too are Colors by Gina brushes, just to kind of show these off. These things are so dense and soft and amazing that they just push that color right through. So I love those.
I absolutely love them.
Yeah. And I'm like a brush snob.
I need a brush.
Yeah. You know how they say a lot of stylists have like the ones that look like brooms on the bottom, like they're all crazy. The second mine do that, I'm like, no.
Yeah. You're out of here. But
yeah,
these
exactly.
lasted me quite a while as well. They last a long time. Nice.
They do. Because oftentimes I forget to use a what do you call that? The mixy thing. What is that called?
The whisk?
Yeah, thank you. The whisk.
So you need to brush to mix it up for you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I forget to use a whisk, and so I'll just use the brush, and it actually works really well. So
yeah.
Again, just be sure to clean your fingers at least between the 5 and the 7.
I was also so impressed with the lightning dust. You mix that, just a couple little flips with your brush, and it's mixed together perfectly.
Oh, totally. You don't need a whisk for that for sure.
No.
That's a really good point. Mm-hmm. So saturating the ends really, really well. And then you can kind of just do the pinching motion between the 5 and the 8, just right at the bottom. So, and this is where your personality can kind of go into it. You know, if you're wanting to have just tons of dimension and this girl always wears her hair in like beautiful beachy waves, you can go a little bit lower with that level 3. But because she has so much light, I kind of want to utilize, you know, the mid-tone on her. And again, this, even though we're using so much violet, because she isn't really, really bright, we're going to end up sort of with almost that mushroom brown color, which is just, I don't know about you guys, but that's like an impossible color to make. Like, I have had such a hard time making that because it usually pulls like really red, or you really can't see the violet. And because there's so much pigment in this, it just lays on top of that brown. So it's almost like in, you know, office lighting, we'd call it, you don't see the purple.
Yeah.
But then in the sun, you're like, whoa, there's so much violet in there.
You're like, there it is. But it's so fun for brunettes to have this opportunity to have fun, edgy hair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times they're like, I want to do something, but I don't know, you know what? And I'm like, mushroom brown all the way. there's just
Totally.
nothing violet and brown together to really just, give the hair a little extra pizzazz.
Right. And again, so many people are coming in after what, 2 and 3 months worth of grow out. And so
Yeah,
you're going to be dealing with like this very brassy kind of color
yeah,
a lot. So if you can, just get in your color brain and take these lovely classes that we're all offering,
yes.
and you're just going to be able to feel confident about using pure mixers in kind of all of your stuff, where you could even go in and use a cool brown, but maybe it's not cool enough. So you can go ahead and just put a 0.11 in there and it's not going to turn blue. I mean, unless you put it on straight, blonde. Don't do that.
Exactly. But this is the first line where I've been so comfortable with the pure tones, where
Yeah.
I feel comfortable adding it to a color and giving it pop, but I also love using it on its own.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically like a fashion color mixed in with our beautiful permanent line. And the fact that you can intermix all 60 shades is pretty amazing for me. I'm a suite owner or renter, and so I have very limited space in my cabinet, and so I really need the color to work with that. I mean, I think every salon has limited space, right, for that, but it's especially the case in suites.
And so you're just working your way up and
Yeah,
feathering.
and you guys can see like just how quickly this is going through really nicely. And so like right here, I don't know if you guys can see that super well, but like the balayage kind of came up in those V sections. So I'm
Yeah,
sort of bringing the 5 down in an inverted V, kind of just right into that dark section.
it is exactly a reverse balayage.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that
Monica used
until
to be
literally
on
we're
here
live.
yesterday the other day to get her ready for this class.
Yeah, I didn't honestly think about that. So, and then, depending if you take too big a section, you can just sort of put your hand underneath and just make sure that it's really nice and saturated. But the color just really works for you. And can you guys see that already oxidizing really nicely on there?
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Really,
So
really
it's really
beautiful. And I think,
pretty.
we are going to have a lot of people coming in, wanting change after they've been kind of cooped up and,
Sure.
they're like, well, I've been doing this balayage, but now it's grown out. Let's transform this baby into something else.
Oh yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if it's just in the air because of all the tension with everything, but every single client that I've had in the last 2 weeks has been like, I thought they would be more cautious about change.
Yeah,
And like,
no, change it up.
no, yeah, like you've had some pretty big transformations too, right? Like
Oh, yeah. It's
big
so
one.
funny. If you went, if you had short hair, you're leaving with long hair, or I mean, sorry,
Yeah,
you're leaving with short hair. And I feel like
exactly.
everyone's just changing their colors completely.
Yeah, like it wouldn't
We
be
have
a
another
stretch
question.
to go
How
from.
long would you let the pure mixer sit?
So I typically, I mean, it depends. If you're using that as just an all over color by itself, I believe it's 20 to 30 right in there. But if you're using it with other colors, what I do is I just go by that timing. So let's say you're doing like a root color that needs 35 minutes to process. Um, then you could go in and just, it's not going to hurt it to stick on that long. It's sort of the rule of thumb, just like fashion colors for me, at least how I use it, where you're kind of like, okay, the longer this sits on, kind of the longer it's going to hold. I mean, but I think it's about 20 minutes is the time for, well, if you're using 5 volume. So my rule of thumb is depending on the volume is how you do your timing. So if you're just doing 5, you're just depositing color. It's a demi-permanent at that point. Our 5 volume is a demi-permanent. So that would be 20 minutes, just like a toner essentially.
Yes,
If
that's
that
right.
makes sense.
And we were also going to talk about when you do color melting, you don't necessarily you can change up you can blend out blondes, you can pop up brunettes, you can really, make your reds pop. So
Yeah.
it doesn't live in one family of color. It's very diverse and versatile.
Exactly. Like when Hattie and I were discussing which color to sort of show off with this, we were sending all kinds of different pictures. Anything from a level 5 warm brown to like kind of a beigey blonde.
Oh yeah.
And you can even do like I sometimes around the face maybe don't want to go quite as dark, and so I'll even put like a wet on wet little baby light. I don't know that I would do that with this color. You might have a little variation with, the lifting. But if you were using just a level 5, you could just kind of go in and like balayage a few highlights onto there, and it would look really gorgeous, I think. ignore. She has this fun little piece. Look at this short little piece of hair.
You gotta love that mannequin hair.
Yeah, there was a whole section that I was like, should I just cut it out? But
Just go
it's
with it.
perfect.
I'll just call it that.
Yeah, she's perfect for what we're using her for, so it's fine. So again, darken this band. So as I get towards this section that lives sort of between the back section and the front, I sort of start to pull the dark down just a little bit because I know that on the top there's going to be so much blonde and so much of that lighter color. So I kind of want to create peaks and valleys, right? Just like with balayage, you kind of want to create that depth in there so that when she curls it, it's going to really show through.
You gotta love those curls, you know, when you can see all those pops of
Yes.
color in there.
Yeah,
And
I have our finished version.
And
Yes.
then I'll like, oh, we do have a question. How much can we charge for the service?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, of course, that's like the question of the hour, right? With any stylist. For me, I don't know. I bet we both have different answers on that, probably. So for me, this is a all over color. So whatever you would charge for an all over. However, I'm using 3 bowls of color, and it's a unique technique. So I would definitely do whatever upcharge that you do. I mean, I guess if it's a reverse balayage, like yes, it is a little less work than a balayage, but it's definitely a technique that you guys are here investing your time into. So just don't shortchange yourselves um, with the fact that this, yeah, it's easier, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't charge for it, So, but at the same time, this is a great service to do because we're all having to. I don't know about you guys, but I'm limiting what services I'm offering. So I'm not doing like full head highlights and a blowout. So I'm kind of making people pick and choose. Like, hey, I have 2 hours, so would you prefer a big blowout and just a few highlights, or do you want like a color melt and we don't blow dry it? So, you can kind of play around with that. What about you, Hattie? What would you do with pricing?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty much, I consider it as like an all over color.
Yeah.
Depending on how many tones we pop in, obviously. But, if it's a full head, you definitely want to charge accordingly, and that you're putting a lot of color in there.
Sure.
But we have another question. What are the best shade mixes for this technique? Do you want me to jump in and answer that?
Yeah, I feel like the sky's the limit, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I mean,
You can
yeah,
do all
you
over the
can.
board.
Now, granted, I think my limit might be a 3, 2, and 8. Like, I'm not sure I would do a 3 into like a 10 because you're gonna have some lines of demarcation. It's not gonna be a color melt at that point. So I would say living within 5 levels is probably best, but you could play with coppers. We chose violet just because we liked it on top of here, but you could play with pretty much anything. I mean, like we could have just done a beige on top of this to cool her down and refresh her balayage, and it's the same technique. So
We were talking about that, like a lot of when you tone balayage, it's almost just like a color melt.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of times you're putting in a shadow root, and then you're putting in your middle tone and in your end tone.
Yeah, that's what I mean about like basically you guys are probably doing color melts without maybe realizing you're doing
Right.
a color melt. So, all right, I'm gonna move her just a teensy bit.
And also like my kind of rule of thumb is like I jump 2 levels. So if it's 5, 7, 9 is usually kind of how I do my rule of thumb with my color melts.
Perfect. Yeah, same.
And
Like
it's whatever tone you could do whatever you want, just as long as you kind of stay in that family.
yeah, within 2, otherwise you have to mix another bowl. So
Yeah,
because you gotta have that melting. So here, do you mind if I jump in for a sec?
absolutely. Go ahead.
So here is where the tea parting section is. So I'm going to do diagonal back sections like this because you're doing sort of the opposite of what the balayage was put in as typically. And that's going to be, I mean, you can see the blend from the old balayage and the brassiness and everything. But also when you go to put the color in here and then back this way, it also just lays really nicely on top of that. So you're not making a huge mess. You don't have to tell your client that she can't move because I feel like my clients, I love them so much, but a lot of them move really a lot. And so if I have a very precarious balayage situation going on, you have to be a little more careful with that. So this kind of eliminates that worry, right?
Okay, so we want to see what you guys do. Don't be shy. Put your own techniques down at the Colors by Gina page so that we can see them and showcase them. We'd love to see what you guys have
Yeah,
done from our class. And
absolutely. So it takes a minute to get through these heads. So what we did for you guys, so you can see the finished version here.
wow, look at that.
Let me get the color in here. The lighting with these is so tricky. Like I said, in different lighting, I mean, I can just move it back and forward and you guys can see how that hits differently. But you've got this great depth. Yeah, great depth, really nice and bright. You can see there the shine is amazing. It's really nice and pretty. Yeah, it almost gives the hint of like a rose gold, but it's cool, which I love, you know.
One really did its job.
Yes, awesome. Thank you guys so much for that. I appreciate you tuning in.
It was awesome, and it's so nice learning from you. And we want you guys not to forget to check out Colored by Gina's B. Sorry, I'm stumbling on the name there.
Color bees, right? Color bees.
Color Bees, yes.
Yeah.
Please, yeah, we'll put a link down below for you guys to look at. And this was just awesome working with you, Molly. Thank you so much.
You too. Tune in for sure. We've got classes going on in the future, so be sure to tune in for our other awesome educators with Colors by Gina.
And then also don't forget we have Colorful Conversations with John Altman coming up soon.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much. It was so great.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your days. Be safe.
Have a wonderful day. Bye.
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 Is it off?
I don't know.
There you go. It's off. I think you're good.
Good job, ladies.